Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Jamuna Thiravanachari Yamuna Thiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Jamuna Thiravanachari Jamuna Thiravanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Shri Radha Madhava Ki Jai Antaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Thaigo Premanande Hari Hari Bo Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Shivadaya Krishna Vishnaya Bhutale Fourth Canto, Chapter 28, text, I believe 24, is that correct? Yeah. Hare Krishna. Purim Vihayopagata Uparudho Bhujangamaha Yada Tam Ivano Puri Vishirna Prakritim Gata Purim Vihayo Pagata Uparudho Bhujangamaha Yadatam Evano Puri Vishirna Prakritim Gata Purim Vihayo Pagata Uparudho Bhujangamaha Yadatam Evanu Puri Vishirna Prakritim Gataha Purim Vihayo Pagata Uparudho Bhujangamaha Yadatam Evanu Puri Vishirna Prakritim Gata
Purim Vihayo Pagata Uparudho Bhujangama Yadatam Evanu Puri Vishirna Prakritim Gata Purim Vihayo Pagata
Yadatam Evanu Puri Vishirna Prakritim Gata. Your turn.
Purim
Vihayo Gavata Uparudha Bhujangamaha Yadatam Evanu Puri Vishirna Prakritim Gata Vihayo Pagata Uparudha Bhujangamaha Yadatam Evanu Puri
Vishirna Prakritim Gata
Pagata. 9 syllables. Yada tam evanu puri. 8 syllables. That's why it. Yada. But of course there's long and short. Yada tam evanu puri. Yeah, okay. Word meanings. Purim, the city. Vihaya, having given up. Upagataha, gone out. Uparudhaha, arrested. Bhujangamaha, the serpent. Yada, when. Tam, him. Eva, certainly. Anu, after. Puri, the city. Vishirna, scattered. Prakritim, matter. Gata, turned into. Translation 4:8-24. The serpent, who had already been arrested by the soldiers of Yavana-rāja and was out of the city, began to follow his master along with the others. As soon as they all left the city, it was immediately dismantled and smashed to dust. Purport: when the living entity is arrested, all his followers, namely the life air, the senses, and the sense objects, immediately leave the lump of matter, the body. When the living entity and his companions leave the body, when the living entity and his companions leave, the body no longer works, but turns into basic material elements: earth, water, fire, air, and ether. When a city attacked by enemies is vacated by its inhabitants, the enemy immediately takes advantage of that city and bombards it to smash the whole thing to dust. When we say, "Dust thou art, and unto dust thou shalt return," we refer to the body. When a city is attacked and bombarded by enemies, the citizens generally leave and the city ceases to exist. It is a foolish person who engages in improving the condition of a city without caring for the citizens or inhabitants. Similarly, a living entity who is not properly enlightened in spiritual knowledge simply takes care of the external body, not knowing that the spirit soul is the principal factor within the body. When one is advanced in spiritual knowledge, the spirit soul is saved from eternal transmigration. The Bhagavatam considers those who are attached to their bodies to be like cows and asses. Sa eva go karaha. In other words, the intelligence, like the intelligence of an animal. The cow is a very innocent animal, and the ass is a beast of burden. One who labors under the bodily conception simply works like an ass and does not know his self-interest. It is therefore said, Yasatma buddhi kunape tridhatuke swadi kalatradishu boma ijadi yatirtha buddhi shalilena karijit janeshvavigeshu saiva go karaha. A human being who identifies this body made of three elements with his self, who considers the byproducts of the body to be his kinsmen, who considers the land of birth worshipable, and who goes to a place of pilgrimage simply to take a bath, rather than meet men of transcendental knowledge, is to be considered like an ass or a cow. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:84-13. Human civilization, devoid of Krishna consciousness, is simply a civilization of lower animals. Sometimes such a civilization may study the dead body and consider the brain or the heart. However, no part of the body is important unless the spirit soul is present. In a modern civilization of cows and asses, scientists try to search out some value in the brain or heart of a dead man. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaura Premanandi. So, you understand everything? No, we don't understand. We think we understand. Yes, yes, I've heard this before. I understand. It's perfectly clear. The example is given. You can train a bird to chant, Hare Krishna. Train a parrot, Govinda. But when he's being attacked and killed, he won't say Govinda. He'll say, ah. So that example is given. You may have theoretical knowledge, but in practical reality, when things get difficult, that knowledge may flee. So, I find that today, especially in a Catholic country, if you tell people you're the soul within the body, it's not, for most people, they're somewhat familiar with that. Maybe not as clearly as it's articulated in the Vedas, but they're somewhat familiar with it. And it's quite interesting to consider that if that knowledge is available in the Bible, how did we end up with such a materialistic civilization? Doesn't make any sense, does it? Or if that knowledge is available in India, definitely in India they understand. And India is maybe becoming worse because probably they feel that they're behind the 8 ball and they need to catch up. So they're moving faster. And we in the West have already caught up, 50 years ago, so we're not so worried. So isn't it interesting? A lot of devotees, especially early in the movement, we looked at Christianity and we thought it must be ineffectual because the people who are going to church don't seem to be any different than the people who don't go to church. They're all out at the mall shopping, shop till you drop on Saturday and Sunday. So what's the difference? And then a devotee recently wrote me and said, it seems the same thing is happening in our movement, that people are contacting Krishna consciousness, but we don't always see that the life is changing, or not significantly, or we see the material attachment still remains. And that's the 10th offense to the holy name. We say to maintain material attachment. Bhaktivinoda Thakur explained that. He said it actually means to identify with the body, stay in bodily consciousness, even though you understand you're not the body. It's actually an offense to the holy name. To live like you're a body. To live more extravagantly than you need, to not perform austerities for self-realization. That's an offense. So, we can say, yes, I know all these things. This purport we probably understood the 3rd day we came to the temple, maybe the 2nd day, maybe the 1st day. Isn't it? This is probably what they told you. Yes. So, Prabhupada quotes a verse from the Bhagavatam, and he quotes this verse very often. And the verse says that normal people identify their place of birth as worshipable in the sense, where are you from? Oh, I'm from Glasgow, or I'm from London. And this is my birthplace. This is where I grew up. This is my house. Maybe we should do arti to my house. As my uncle lives, my aunt, my grandmother. Yeah, this is my tirtha. And the Bhagavatam is saying that's an extension of thinking I'm the body, and that the animal thinks they're the body. And so if you think you're the body, then what distinguishes you from the animal? So Bhagavatam's pretty heavy. It says nothing. You're like a cow or an ass, just innocently ignorant. Yasyatma buddhi kunape tridatuke, that means one whose buddhi, one whose intelligence thinks kunape tridatuke, I am the body made of 3 elements. What are you, sir? What's your name? John Smith. What are you? I'm a man. I'm Scottish. I work at this company. Buddhi, gunape tridatuke. The buddhi, the intelligence. If you could call it intelligence, this is kind of giving them the benefit of doubt that they actually have intelligence. But of course we all have intelligence, but it's saying intelligence applied in this way. Is intelligence applied to thinking I'm the body, then kala swadi, and then the consciousness, kala tradishu, the field, boma ijadi, the worshipable place of my birthplace is worshipable. And then I go on pilgrimage. This is very interesting. This is also considered to be animal consciousness. And of course this is very common. People go on pilgrimage to take a bath, but not to hear from sadhus. Sometimes there's a story that maybe it was a king or a wealthy businessman. He came to Gorkishore Das Babaji and said, I want to do bhajan here with you. I want to get your sangha. He said, okay, sit down here and never leave. Don't go back from where you came. The man ran away. So, to go down and you could say, in a sense, it's dangerous to hear from the sadhu, because the sadhu is going to say something you may not want to hear. The sadhu might, as Bhaktisiddhanta said, do an operation and cut out the gangrene in your heart, and that may be painful. But that's his duty. So I find this interesting, that so many people go on pilgrimage. That's good, but they don't go to hear the sadhus. You see that sometimes in India. People are going on pilgrimage temple to temple. And we're giving class and they come in and they disrupt the whole class. Have you seen that? They come in, rah, 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 chatter, chatter, chatter. Coming to see the deity and leave. And not to sit for the class, not to hear the sadhu. And Prabhupada was listening to his spiritual master. At that time there was going to be a parikrama, so the talk was interrupted. It said, we're going to have parikrama now, but our Guru Maharaj is also going to speak, so anyone who wants to go on the parikrama can leave now. And Prabhupada commented on that. He said, I thought, if I go on parikrama, what will I see? But if I hear from my Guru Maharaj, then I'll actually see. So sometimes it's like that. You go on parikrama, but you don't really see unless you hear from the sadhu. Otherwise, you're seeing, but you're not really seeing. But general idea is go on parikrama, go on pilgrimage, get some piety. That's good for you. Builds up your pious bank account, good karma. And here, even that, it's kind of amazing if you think about it. Even that, it means that karma kanda section of the Vedas, that still you're considered like an animal, like stupid, like no brain. Isn't that interesting? You have, you know better than a cow or an ass. You've gone on pilgrimage, you took your bath, and you haven't heard from the sadhu. So you're like an ass or cow. That's pretty heavy, isn't it? So I'd like to reflect a little bit on Prabhupada's vision. As we know, Prabhupada was a revolutionary. And this morning I was reading Shyam Sundar's book, volume 2 of Chasing the Rhinos. And I think specifically in his dealings with Prabhupada, and because of his nature, there was a lot of impossible tasks that Prabhupada was doing, or trying for, at least from our vision seemed impossible. But one thing you see is that Prabhupada's thinking, you could call it his mood, or more specifically, his thinking. He's thinking right how to get to the heart of materialism and destroy it. So this morning I was reading about the invitation they got to go to Russia and how excited, and then they couldn't get the visas and for some reason, and then Shyamsundar went and met somebody, the embassy, who was able to get them the visas. And there was, Prabhupada's mission was, get in behind the Iron Curtain and destroy communism, or give them the real idea of communism. That's, he wasn't thinking we'll go there and, we'll meet one person and check it out and, maybe there's potential. His thinking was, we're going to go in there and show them what the real idea of communism is. And it was interesting, when he went there, on Sunday they had a parade, a military parade, and they found out they have these military parades every Sunday. It's like to build this nationalistic spirit and also induce some fear in the people, because there was a Cold War that America could turn against us militarily, and so here's our army. And so Prabhupada saw that and he said, they're trying to instill fear in people, and you can't successfully govern a people through fear. And this was in 1971. And he said, this will be finished in 20 years, it can't go on. And I think it was 1989. So it happened sooner than he thought, a few years before he even predicted. So it is interesting that when Prabhupada is traveling and preaching, he's looking at the world, not just making a few people Krishna conscious, but looking at how governments run and how things need to be changed. And that's his vision. And I think it's really important for us and inspiring, especially inspiring and helpful for us in our enthusiasm to spread Krishna consciousness, to understand that that's how Prabhupada was seeing things, not just distribute a little prasadam here, or do a little harinam here, or do a little program. But his vision of what we were doing was to create a major change. And sometimes it's hard for us to see that. But when you read this purport, it's very simple. But what Prabhupada is saying is very simple. But when you think about the fact that what Prabhupada is saying here is how he saw, it wasn't theoretical. So when he's preaching, he's actually seeing exactly how people are conditioned, exactly how they're being cheated and illusioned. And so, because he can see it, it has a different effect on him than it does on us who only have theoretical knowledge. He really sees how people are being destroyed by politicians, by media, by so-called religion, philosophy, and science. How they're being kept in the bodily conception. He understands clearly that's the problem. They're being kept like dogs and asses and cows. And as long as they're kept in that consciousness, then they'll work like asses day and night, and they'll take birth after birth after birth. He's seeing this clearly. We understand it, we don't always see it. Sometimes we look at them and think, oh, maybe they're happier than I am. They have a nice car, I don't. They live in a nice house, I don't. Sometimes we get illusioned. So, yes, that ever happened to you? Yeah. Well, Prabhupada was not like that. He saw clearly how they're being manipulated, the insidious effects of education, that is basically destroying people spiritually, the insidious effects of marketing people to become consumers endlessly, and how that will only lead to unhappiness and frustration, but worse than that, it leads to ignorance of themselves and God. And so, his vision in preaching was a lot different than most of our vision. His vision was like, get right in there, change it at the core, meet the highest people, talk to them, pull it around, and see the potential of Krishna consciousness for creating a revolution and the only thing that can save the world. Now, of course, you might think, well, can we actually do that? We're just a bunch of losers. And what can we do? Spiritual losers, just trying to keep our head above water. But at least we can think, as Prabhupada did, that the potential is there, that Krishna consciousness, if it were accepted, would have this effect. And you never know. You just never know. One of the things that I've seen over the years is that sometimes you go on and you're preaching and it just doesn't look like much is happening. But if you just keep going and don't give up, some little thing happens. And there's like a new level of preaching. And you keep going and going, and something else happens. And somebody joins whose father owns this or that, controls half the media in Glasgow. And he says, he wants to do a show with you, and you do that show. And I was reading this morning, or maybe it was last night, about the first Hare Krishna festival they put on in Mumbai. It was near Chowpatty. And they were getting 10,000. The pandal was big enough for 10,000 people. It was 250 feet. You don't think in feet, do you? It's like 80 meters by 120 meters. So they could get 10,000 people. It was a big pond. It's like bigger than American football field. I don't know, your field maybe the same size, bigger than that. And so 10,000 people were coming every night. And a devotee's relative owned a billboard company. So they got 30 free billboards, Hare Krishna festival. So all over Mumbai, everyone was seeing, you know. I forget how they advertised it, you know, American Vaishnavas and their guru or something like that. But the point is that after they did that, it like transformed the preaching in India. Everything from, it was like nothing much was happening, nothing considerable. After that one event, everything changed. Like everyone in Bombay knew about the Hare Krishnas. Everyone knew about Prabhupada. It was all over the papers. Everybody heard about it. And so many important people went to that event, and later the devotees, and they're contacting people. Like, I think when they went to get the visa for Russia, the man who helped them said, I was at the event. Like all these people were, so Shyama Sundar Prabhu said that was like a major change. So sometimes just one thing, one event, one person, one connection, you don't know, but just by steady going at it, the power of Krishna consciousness is great, and it can affect many people. But aside from that, if we can adopt more the vision that Prabhupada had, of being able to see very clearly how people are being cheated, and be saddened by it, because Prabhupada was very saddened by it. He really felt for people who were suffering, because he understood their suffering was unnecessary. It was at the hands of misleaders. It wasn't, you know, sometimes it's very interesting. Sometimes Prabhupada uses the word innocent people, and we think, well, how could you be innocent if there's karma? But the way Prabhupada explains it is that people suffer at the hands of misleaders. And he uses innocent people suffer. So that means, my understanding is, we all have our own karma, but this is another layer. That you get a misleader, there's another layer of suffering that is being forced upon you by misleaders. Just as if we were in the kingdom of Ram, there would be a layer of happiness and relief of suffering beyond what we maybe do by our karma, just because of good leadership. So Prabhupada felt that, he definitely felt that. And he clearly understood it, and he saw how it was happening. Like when Prabhupada began speaking about scientists and the theories of evolution, when he first began speaking about it was around 1974, and we didn't know why he was talking about it. And he was telling us how bad the scientists are and how they're the enemies, the greatest enemies of human civilization. Wow, what a thing to say. You imagine sitting in a class and just out of the blue, and you've never heard this before, and you can't figure out why Prabhupada would say that. Greatest enemies of human civilization. But Prabhupada understood. He could put the dots together and see the trajectory of where that's going. Scientific, that theory of evolution and life comes from chemicals. That is atheism in a scientific package. Doesn't look like it because they're not coming out and saying, I don't believe in God. Even some of the scientists do believe in God, but their whole theory is atheistic. There's no need for a supreme controller. Life is a combination of matter. So Prabhupada sees where that's going, where is that going to take people, and how that's starting to dominate the academic world, and how that will destroy. How that will destroy spirituality, and how that will be the basis of a materialistic culture. They go hand in hand. Materialism and evolution, they're married. They work together. Sri Sri Kodanitai Mayapur Sashi Kija. Shankaraya Krishna Krishna Nitana. Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami. I think you need a little oil. You have this spray, you can spray it on.
WD-40.
WD-40.
It's part of the sound effects.
What?
It's part of the sound effects.
So, Prabhupada was talking about the scientists every day on his morning walks, and we had no idea why he's talking about them. It was just, he had never really spoken much about them. Maybe in his books, but we didn't pay that much attention because it wasn't so focused. And so this was Prabhupada's vision. He sees where this is going. He sees how this combination of materialism is fostered. It's founded upon these ideas that there's no soul and the universe happens by accident. And that this idea, if it's accepted, it becomes now the de facto truth. And you can have religion if you want, you can keep it on the side, but religion is faith, and this is actually the truth. That's where it was going. And once it goes there, that means every child in public education is told this is true and religion is just your faith, which is a polite way of saying you believe in something you'll never prove and you don't know it's true. And because we have this theory that explains everything, actually what you believe isn't true. And be nice to your grandmother, you can believe it, but it's not true. This is what's true. But we didn't see that. We didn't understand that. We didn't know where it was going. And Prabhupada sees it. And he gets his scientists and he says, attack it. These are now the new gurus of the modern age. And they're going to destroy civilization. Wow, what a vision. We had no idea. So that's my point. Prabhupada had this vision of how materialistic society works, how its influence is destroying people, where the influences are coming. And as we know, Prabhupada understood things on a different level. And so there were certain things he just knew. This is what's going to happen. He could see exactly. And understand how degrading and demoniac the influences were, way beyond what we thought. We just thought people were ignorantly innocent, and Prabhupada saying, no, it's not so innocent. The ignorance is not so innocent. There's control. And I'm writing a book, and I did a study of the history of materialism, and there was a movie on it. I forget the name of it. It was a documentary. I forget, but it went through the history of materialism, in terms of how markets were developed because of trade routes and products being manufactured in industries more cheaply, and how middle class was developing so they had money to buy the products. And so they drew out the history to the modern day. And then, this is so interesting, they brought in the theory of evolution and they explained how this was necessary to foster that materialism, that they went hand in hand. I thought that was kind of brilliant. So that means that it's being understood by people, not everyone, but they understand the marriage is necessary. Because that idea, you're the body, if you're the body, shop till you drop, work hard, get money, eat, drink, and be merry, and just die. It's over. So Prabhupada saw that. He saw clearly how all that was working. And he wanted to go right for the jugular vein and just go right to the top and change it and let it trickle down to society. Just as they're illusioned, we could also make a change. That was his vision. Of course, we may think, well, how can we do that, and who are we, and etc. But at least I think it's important to understand that was Prabhupada's vision and see it that way. And something will come from that, some bigger vision of what we can do. Like the nice thing about reading Shyama Sundar's book is he always wanted to do something special for Prabhupada and have Prabhupada say, you did good, like you did something extraordinary. So that's what's inspiring about the book, to inspire us to think in a similar way. Can we do something, maybe out of the box, we've never done before. I had a godbrother, and he went to South Africa, and their first Janmashtami they did in a park. And about 50,000 people came, and this must have been around 1979, I think, or 80. And at that time, in terms of the Indian population and the development of ISKCON, Janmashtamis were not 100,000, 80,000, 1 million in Mumbai. They were very small. So to get 50,000, of course, if we got 50,000 people here, that would be huge. But what did they get in the manor? Like 80,000 or something?
62.
Yeah. So even for the manor today, that was big. And he did this in South Africa, which was a new preaching field. And when Prabhupada got the report, he was so happy. And the devotee that did that, he just knew that those kinds of things just please Prabhupada when they're, not that Prabhupada's not pleased with whatever we do, but especially inspired him when we do something like that, like out of the ordinary. So I think it's nice to think in that way. We can do something a little bigger, make a little more of a dent. And that was Prabhupada's mood, And let's go to Russia. Let's go behind the Iron Curtain, Let's topple this communism. Isn't that interesting? That's what Prabhupada's thinking when he goes there. One man for 5 days and he's thinking, we're going to topple communism, which eventually happened. And we definitely toppled it now, and Prabhupada, and the other thing he said when he was there, he understood something about Russia somehow or other, and he said this is going to be something like the biggest or one of the biggest places for preaching. He just sized it up and he went there and said, this is going to be huge. And it seems that Prabhupada knew just going there for a few days is all he needed to do to lay the groundwork, plant the seed, and that's what happened. It's like Malati had put a Bhagavad Gita and an Easy Journey to Other Planets in Shamasundar's suitcase, and you're not supposed to bring books because the KGB will catch you. And they opened his suitcase, and and Shamasundar didn't know he had the books in there. And she had put them in there, and he was like, why did she do this? I'm going to, be in prison now in Russia. And the KGB, they were kind of bewildered and going through it. And finally, they let him go. And Prabhupada saw what was happening. And Shamasundar was thinking, this was like the worst thing that Malati could have ever done. And then when he got there, Prabhupada said, so you brought Bhagavad Gita? He said, yes. Like thinking Prabhupada would say, that was stupid. Prabhupada said, oh, very good. As if Prabhupada knew, we're going to meet someone and we need Bhagavad Gita for him. And this person is going to spread Krishna consciousness. And that's what happened. So Prabhupada wanted to topple Russia, and it toppled. So I think it's a beautiful way to think. No matter what we can do, but at least think in those terms. Try for something. Why not? But at least have the vision that Prabhupada had to understand this demoniac nature that of how people are being influenced and how it's working. So, you have any questions? Yes, sir.
One was just a quick story, and then the question was when you were talking about how things miraculously can change, although we think we're losers, but if we persevere. And it's a story of two frogs that fell into a pot of milk, you know that story? And they were trying to stay, and one of the frogs gave up, and the other one said, well, I'm just going to keep going until I die. And then the milk churned, the butter came up, and the frog could get out. So
Yeah.
He didn't know that.
He didn't give up. Yeah.
But the question was...
I have another story. Two frogs fell in a well, and there was no butter. And they were trying to jump out of the well, and the frogs on top said, don't try to jump out because you're going to die anyway, and you'll never get out, so die in peace. And so one frog just laid back and said, okay, this is my last days. And the other frog kept jumping. And there were all the frogs up on top and saying, stop jumping, you can't get out, it's too deep. And the more they said don't, the more he jumped. And somehow, or miraculously, this gust of wind picked him up and entered the well. This custom picked him and threw him out of the well. And all the frogs were amazed, and they were wondering. They said, when he got out, they asked him, why were you jumping when we were telling you not to jump? He said, oh, I'm hard of hearing. I thought you were saying, jump harder, jump harder. So that's a story about encouraging people. That would be a good one for temple presidents, right? Just keep encouraging. You're good, you can do more. You can do more. Just keep going. Yeah, so.
I think the question was, if somebody could individually visualize something, but would it be even more powerful if it was communally, if it was a collective?
Yeah, collective vision.
If you get everyone in the same.
Yeah, of course. Oh, that's what it means to have a community, to build a collective vision, for sure. Vision is vision becomes inspiring or depressing depending on what your vision is. Oh, nothing's going right, everything's bad. That's pretty depressing, right? But to have a vision that's inspiring and a vision that you can, it's not only inspiring, but you can see that it could manifest. It's like, and you see by your daily actions you're getting closer to it. That's very inspiring, isn't it? I mean, one book distributor, he used to say that when he would first go out on Sankirtan, sometimes he would give out books. You know, we'd need to get $5. That was the standard in those days. We'd need to get $5 for a Bhagavatam because we had to bring $5 back for each Bhagavatam we distributed. But he would say, sometimes he would just when he first would go out, he would just let the Bhagavatams go for whatever he could get, because he just wanted to get the ball rolling, just get in the mood. So, if we have some successes, it's definitely inspiring, right? Definitely keeps us going. So, not only does it have benefit for the people that we're reaching, but it has benefit for us. If you do something special, and Raghunath does something special, and Prabhupada Pran does something special, and this one and that one, it's inspiring. Oh, you did this. Oh, you did so many books, or you did this program. People really liked it. Yeah. So we need that kind of thing. Not only the vision, but filling in the pieces gradually. That becomes really inspiring when you start seeing the vision is practically unfolding. But to have a communal vision that everyone agrees upon, and especially is inspiring, is essentially important. In other words, it's like, what are we doing? Where's it going? Right? And what's happening more and more today in ISKCON is that devotees are understanding what is attracting people to practice spiritual life, and so they're trying to facilitate it. They're preaching in a way that's attractive, that will bring people, right? And give people the good experience of Krishna consciousness, so they want to come back. And I think also, when you create your vision, you have to create a vision which is achievable. So part of an achievable vision is giving a people a good experience. You can't control whether someone's going to become a devotee, although that may be part of your vision. But definitely you can give people a good experience. And so, if that's part of your vision, to get people here, get people to stay on the weekends, have a good experience, have festivals and so forth. And then when you do that, you can say, did people get a good taste? Good taste means they want to come back. We have more programs they'll come back to. If that's happening, that's inspiring. Oh, they're coming back. Because if they keep coming back, they'll become devotees, right? In fact, one vision you could have, just that I'm thinking, is a vision to get people coming back again and again. Because at a certain point, something will happen, right? If they come enough, isn't it? They get enough association. And the process of preaching, when you look at it from this perspective, the process of preaching is really to give people association. And when they get enough association, it kind of hits a point, bing, and something changes. And they like this association better than the association that they have. And in this association, they're happier, and in this association, they feel better, and they're making spiritual advancement. But they need it consistently over a period of time. And a lot of times when we have festivals, it's basically just an excuse for people to associate with us. You can make any festival you want. You call it anything. The December festival, the Frost Festival, the January Frost Festival. We're going to come and throw snowballs at one another. Offer it to Krishna, throw snowballs. You just it's like you think about it. Krishna performs all these pastimes, and some of the pastimes he performs because he's God. He knows there's going to be a festival, like when he lifts Govardhan. He knows there's going to be a festival. So he creates a pastime, and then every year after that, there's a festival. And so what's a festival? It's just it's a way to bring devotees together, more kirtan, more katha, right? So that's really, I think, an important goal, how we can bring people together for programs as much as possible and for festivals. What do we have to do to make sure they'll come back and feel good and want to come back again and again? And what can we do to bring them out here, to spend a little time, and to bring them out here regularly? And then that's how they become devotees. So definitely I think that's really should be foundational goal. And you don't have to, like Prabhupada said, you don't have to really preach to them to become devotees. You just have to share Krishna consciousness, share the philosophy in general, have nice prasadam, nice kirtan, and then they'll understand on their own that this is something I would like to do. If they're ready to do it, they'll understand that. And other people will just be our friends. They'll never become devotees. But a lot of those friends will bring their friends, and their friends will become devotees. So it's not that we can control, we have the power to make everyone a devotee, but we definitely have the power to encourage people to come here and chant and so forth. And some of those people will go further, and other people will just be our friends. They'll like us, they'll say good things about us, they'll tell people about us, because everybody's on a different level. But our position is to provide the best opportunity for everyone, right? No matter where they are. At least if we provide the best opportunity, then we've done our best, right? So, and after that, it's up to them. But if we don't provide the best opportunity, then it's our fault. If we provide the best opportunity, they don't do it, that's their choice. But if we don't provide the best opportunity and they don't do it, it's our fault. That's how we should see. At least that's how I see. And I see that, as you also see, there are so many innocent people that are interested in Krishna consciousness. And I don't know if the word capture is the right word, but I like the word capture because I feel like if we don't, quote unquote, capture them, in other words, attract them to come back to our programs, they'll be captured by someone or something else. Even though they're interested in Krishna consciousness, but it's easy to be captured by other things, isn't it? You know how we all meet nice people and we talk to them and we think, this person, compared to all the other 8 billion persons in the world, this person's pretty close to Krishna. They understand. We meet them all the time, right? But then it's like, we're praying, I hope they come back next week, isn't it? I hope because I can see this person could become a devotee of sorts or part of our congregation. But I think it's important to, as far as possible, within our planning and strategy, to have a way, as far as we can, to ensure that they will come back next time. And that may mean getting their phone number and staying in touch. It could mean anything. Regular newsletters, or both, and many, many programs. And then also, there's some programs that are going to be more potent. So obviously, if they're ready and they stay here a weekend and you have a good program on that weekend, that's going to be more potent than just coming for an hour once a week. Once a week, an hour is good also. So then you want to devise programs that will be more powerful. Like what would be good? If I can get them, like all day on Saturday, to do a workshop. If I could get them to stay a weekend. If I can get some of them to go to India, go to Rath Yatra in London, like that. You just like, You just think, it's just capturing. It's just, how can I capture them and keep them in Krishna's prison? So, or we'll say, capture them and put them in Krishna's palace so they won't be captured and imprisoned by Maya in Durga's dungeon. Because that's really what is out there. There are innocent people who are inclined to Krishna consciousness, but they're being, as we're discussing in this class, they're being influenced by social media, by marketing, by movies, music, and information. I mean, you have no idea how pervasive, maybe you do, how pervasive evolutionary theory is. I study spiritual speakers, and they all talk about evolution within a context of making a point, not that they're like detailing it for any specific reason, but it's in a context of how, like, the brain's evolving. Oh, when we were cavemen and we were this, and when we were hunters and gatherers, they all bought into it. And I'm thinking, these guys believe the soul exists, and they're talking about evolution, and they don't even realize there's an inconsistency there. It's not congruent. They don't even realize that, and Prabhupada pointed it out to us. So these innocent people we're trying to capture, they'll go off to this yoga retreat in this Buddhist place, and they'll hear this and hear that, and think it's all good, it's all one, there's no difference. So it's our duty to say, no, these are the differences. And they, oh, I didn't know that. Right? So I think the concept of, arresting them and bringing them to the palace of Krishna, where you're safe. We've arrested, not capture, no, that's not, arresting and capturing is not the word, it's saving them. Rescuing, that's the word. We want rescuing them because they're going to be captured by Maya or Maya's agents. And some of that capturing comes in the form of so-called spirituality. And it's really sad when they're captured by it, because they're inclined to spirituality, so that means they're open to various kinds of spirituality, right? And how many people have the discretion to understand? We are blessed that Prabhupada gave us the discretion, but if we didn't have Prabhupada, we wouldn't have the discretion, right? So how can we expect them to know? That's rare, unless we show them. And then also we set a good example. And we show them that we're happy. And that's very powerful. When they, I don't really think there's anything, well, maybe prasadam and a fantastic kirtan, but in addition, happy devotees, Whatever you could say, practically speaking, you don't have to say it, just be ecstatic, and that says everything. Because you can't argue with ecstasy. They could argue with what you say, but they can't argue with ecstasy. Isn't it? Well, how do I know, and this and that, and this Swami says this and that. But you have this big smile because you're executing Krishna consciousness, and it's just blowing them over how happy you are. That they can't argue with. So you can say, yeah, you can say this and that, but are you happy? Are you happy all the time? Are you ecstatic? Are you blissful? Because if you're not, then what you're doing is not working. But say, look at these devotees, look how blissful they are. That speaks volumes. So if you create a community that's blissful and devotees are happy in their Krishna consciousness, and then people come out and see that, that's very powerful, isn't it? I know that had a powerful effect on me when I was becoming a devotee. Like, all the devotees were so happy. And then when I go to the temple, I would also be happy. And I would think, I never met people this happy, and I've never been in a place where I felt so happy. So why would I want to go anywhere else? Right? It's just like everywhere else I went, it was like, doo. After I'd leave the temple, doo, it was down. You go to the temple, and it's this high energy and blissful devotees and speaking philosophy, and it's like, wow, I can relate to this. And they're all pure. So I think that's why it's good to bring people out here and let them see that. And many people will identify with it. And then create a place for them and say, you have a place here. This is your room. Every Saturday and Sunday, you can stay here. And this is your service. And people start coming. And it's like they feel like they're part of the community. They have a service they do. That would be great, right? You get these Not just occasionally visit. No, we want you to work on this project. If you find somebody that can do something, engage them. Even if you could do it, if they can do it as well, let them do it. If we need posters and they can make posters, even though you can make a poster, let them make the poster. Let them be their regular, give them regular service, because when they have regular service, that is so effective in bringing them to Krishna consciousness, because that service will also entail service during the week. So now they're connected with Krishna during the week. And service is powerful, it's transcendental, and they'll experience it. They'll experience the purity of it. And if they can come here on the weekends and have some regular service out here, you say you're building a fence or painting something, so this is your seva. You come every weekend and work on it. Then they'll feel like, oh, I have to go back. I'll let Prabhupada prawn down if I don't come back. My room's there, everything's there. Whatever you have to do. Here's the key to the room. You don't even have to see me, just come. No one will be here. It's your room, come back. Person feels like, oh, I have a place. These kinds of things. And then gradually you'll see. This will be the place they want to be. Spend time, right? So that's important. Finding what people like to do and engaging them is very, very important. Right? Sometimes Prabhupada would ask, what do you like to do? Well, Prabhupada, what do you want me to do? No, I want to know what do you want to do? Because if you're doing what you like doing, but doing it in Krishna service, naturally you're inspired. Yes? Okay. We have a problem here that the names are flying. Okay, let's see if I can hold the question. It seems that we have to be very sensitive when we preach, and every country is different, and in every country different things work. For example, in Poland, people are very independent, and when someone is contacting them too often to invite them to come again, they feel pushed and make them discouraged. Polish people like to make free decisions. Yeah, it's true, you have to deal with every culture, but what I would say, once you make friends with people, then they won't feel pushed. They'll feel loved. If you actually have a relationship with them, and then you invite them, they'll feel, thank you, you love me. That's why you're calling me. So you want to, if you can, create that kind of relationship. And that would be the best thing. Obviously not with everyone, but with a lot of people you can have that relationship. Talk to them every week. Each of you have like 10 people you're talking to every week. Even just WhatsApp messages, how you doing, etc. And then every devotee agrees that they'll have their list of people. And when there's a festival, you invite them personally. They don't get you can send an impersonal invitation, but you also send it with a personal letter. This is what we're doing. I want to invite you personally. That's very powerful. That's one of the ways that I used to make devotees. I used to go to their homes. They're coming. I'm in town, were you around? I'll visit you. I just go in their home. And then once you're in somebody's home, you really get to know them. And you talk and they open up. And so it's basically, figuring out what will work best for each individual. Do what you can. Do what you can to, what do we say? Rescue. Rescue them from the hands of Yavana-rāja. Hare Krishna. Inspire them, attract them. You have competition now. There's so many places they can go to be inspired and attracted. We have to be more inspiring and more attractive. And not threatening. Nobody should feel threatened. You have to do this or that. They should feel inspired that they want to do it. That you explain things so well, as Prabhupada said, you explain it so well, they want to do austerity. You don't have to force them. They'll want to do it. Right? Yes. And they find the other thing is finding a place. I mean, we're talking about engaging them. But you always want to think, when you're dealing with people, how could I find a place for them in Krishna consciousness? What would that be? Where would they be comfortable so that it would be sustainable? They could do this day in, day out. Whether it's a certain number of rounds or a certain level of sadhana or a service. Because if we push them too far, then they feel, I can't do this, then they back off. It's not for, then they'll feel, this is not for me, it's too much. Whereas you find, where that place is in which they can comfortably engage without feeling pressure that you're down here and you have to be up here, then that's very important. Because then they won't feel like I have to be like shaved head Sika Tilak. I have my place, I can, whatever that is. I'm milking cows or doing music or art or marketing or advertising or whatever. Building a fence, whatever it is. And everybody's encouraging them and happy and they don't feel this pressure. That's the best place from which people can advance. And you can build a huge community like that, and then you'll have this huge community, and not everyone's going to be a devotee as we traditionally understand it, but they'll be devotees in their own way. And that way you have a big community, because you have various standards. So it's not like this is a devotee, and that's it. And then we have 15 people, but you have broadened your definition. Devotee means you're serving Krishna, and find ways they can serve, and then you have a big congregation of people. And they all feel comfortable, and they don't feel like they have to be anything more. If they feel like they have to be anything more, it's going to come from them, from within, due to our inspirational preaching, but they're not going to feel forced. Our preaching is going to inspire, but they're not going to feel forced. Like I was saying last night, and I found this extremely effective. I was relating my experience of what it's like to live without envy or jealousy or lust or greed. And I was asking them, said, could you imagine what your life would be like to live without that? And anytime you say this to people, you can see there's a kind of an amazement on their face. They're thinking, wow, that would be amazing, to actually be free of these things. So that's how we inspire them and say, that stage is possible. If you follow Krishna consciousness, you will get to that point where you're free of these things. And just imagine what you'll experience. That's inspiration. So you've just dropped that seed and they're thinking, wow, I'd like to get there. And so that's going to inspire them. Maybe I should chant more. Yeah, well, chanting will get you there. But you don't say, you have to chant. You're just saying, this chanting will get you there. Or if you do austerities, it'll help you get closer. But you didn't say, you should do this, and by the third month you have to do this. You're just inspiring them. And then they're trying to figure it out. And you're like, there's pushing and there's pulling. We're doing more, inspiration is pulling. Force is pushing. There's a book, and the title of the book is called Power versus Force. It's a spiritual teacher. And he was saying there's two ways to do things, by force or by power. The power is inspiration. You're inspired from within. Force is like, I have to do it, and someone's pushing you. And that never works. Right? So we're inspiring. It's like you're eating a pakora and you say, wow, this pakora is amazing. I've never had a pakora like this. And everybody's like, where do I get one? Isn't it? And Prabhupada doesn't say, you all have to eat a pakora. That's required today. He just says, he's just eating it, and he's laughing and screaming and rolling on the ground. Oh my God, this pakora! I never had a pakora like this. And we're all looking at him. It's like, obviously we want the pakora. We're grabbing it out of his hand or whatever. So that's inspiration, by your own bliss, your own experience, and you share that with people. And it's very alluring. Right? Does that make sense? So I found that's very effective. Instead of saying, you will, if you do this, you'll come to the stage, you can say what the stage is like also, and how you're experiencing that, and how amazing it is. And how, if we try to get that some other way on the material level, it doesn't work, and you all know that. So you're opening up a new world for them of possibilities. It's very attractive.
It's like the line in the Gayatri, Aim Gurudev with me, Krishna, and you become
Enthused?
Enthused as you see. You're enthused.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll be enthused by enthusing others for sure. So this is my strategy. We have a center in Mexico, and the basic strategy culture is we just encourage everyone on whatever level you're at. You know, it's like, you know, I'm coming here, I'm coming once a week. Great, keep coming. You know, it's not like, well, you know, by now you should be chanting 4 rounds and how many principles you're following. We have to talk about this. You know? It's like they'll get to understand that if you're giving classes, if they're coming, if they're preaching, if you're making personal relationships, then you could say, well, are you chanting? What are you doing? And I'll go, well, I chant sometimes. And now you have a personal relationship. You know, I really be good. Why don't you try doing it once a day? You know, I'll call you up in the morning. We can chant together. You know, then it's different. Then you can start working with them, and they know you now, and they feel your affection. Right? The feeling that everyone's accepted, and then also the personal relationship. That combination is very powerful. Because no one will ever be turned away, or no one will ever feel they can't belong here, unless they're doing something to disturb us. But they'll feel like, yeah, everything is good. Then when you have that personal relationship, you can really work with them. And a lot of times in those personal relationships, they'll reveal challenges, and you'll help them, and they'll see you as their guide. And the more they see you as your guide, the easier it is for you to guide them, obviously. Because they're looking for that, they want that. And sometimes depend on it. So that's my strategy. Acceptance and personal guidance. And then having your regular programs, which give them all knowledge they need. And you make sure that everybody gets the basic knowledge they need. And then on top of that, the icing on the cake is everybody's happy. I think that's the mantra for today's class. Nobody can argue with happiness. Nobody can argue with ecstasy. You can argue philosophy, but you can't argue with ecstasy. And that was how Lord Chaitanya won the Mayavadis, right? They're talking so much philosophy, it's going nowhere. But they saw his effulgence. And that was his, Prabhupada said, that was his weapon, his effulgence. That's what convinced them. Isn't that interesting? It wasn't the philosophy, it was the effulgence. It was the spiritual bliss of Lord Chaitanya, his beauty, his just spiritual Shakti. Okay, we can stop. Good. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Go Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Keep up the good work out there. Hare Krishna.